Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kelly Starrett,
And I'm Juliette Starrett.
and you're listening to the Ready State Podcast.
You got it. You better stop it. You got it.
This episode of the Ready State Podcast is brought to you by Momentus. And today we want to talk about one of our favorite things ever, which is the collagen shot.
Yeah, look, back in university, I ended up studying cultural geography. Don't laugh, stop laughing. But really, it's looking at behavior and environment, and it really has shaped a lot of the way you and I think about how do we can create bone-crushing consistency for people. And that's, you have to reduce the barriers to entry. You have to make it so easy that you can do the same thing time after time for long periods of time to make huge gains. And that is why this works so well. This collagen shot is the bomb.
Isn't it? Didn't I also hear you recently say that you want to trade your tissue health for your cognitive health, which is another reason why collagen shots are so important to you?
It is. It's not that I would trade my
If you had
cognitive
to
health,
choose,
but I really want, as I am now 49 and still like to do
some things
silly
with your
things.
body.
I'm kind of crazy sometimes. My childhood boy self. I want to make sure that I have all the building blocks on hand so that I don't have those strains that happen when you're a little bit older trying to go fast.
Which is why collagen is such an
Yeah.
important part of our routine.
And it's not even just about your connective tissue. It's about your small intestine. It's about your skin. I mean, you are made of collagen. I don't think you're getting enough collagen. I don't think you're getting enough bone broth. I don't think you're getting enough offal. I don't think you're eating the chicken skin and gristle. This is an easy way to get it in. It's delicious and it's portable. You don't have to
It's
mix it in with
portable, yeah.
anything.
When you take a trip, you can just throw some in your bag and you are
fact.
good to go.
That's the thing. It
to-
solved the problem.
Solves the problem. Go get some collagen shots at readystate.com/momentous and use code TRS for 20% off your first purchase. This episode of the Ready State Podcast is brought to you by Sleep Me.
What I want to get into is how disrupted my sleep used to be because I would wake up hot.
I mean, you would wake up so hot,
It was
1,000 degrees.
Literally. And one of the things that happened, I have been through every iteration. So there's sort of three levels of cooling power here. The Cube is the original OG, and it really changed my life. Then I upgraded to the Uller when that came out, and that gave me a lot of control and a lot more cold. And I don't think everyone needs that, but I am a 235-pound like supernova in bed.
You really are.
I'm not just talking about my love skills either here. We're just talking about
Oh my
just
God.
my great heat.
What I would also like to say, though, is that we tried every iteration of like fans pointed directly at you and other cooling devices. But the problem is then I would be freezing and in order to keep you cold.
And that was not a problem for me. But especially since I started falling asleep and staying asleep. But since we both have been sleeping with our personal temperature ideals, there is harmony in the kingdom. I mean, all is well in the kingdom. You go to your side, your ring. My side is like, I'm like a White Walker.
Yeah.
And you sleep on the sun.
And we both fall asleep and stay asleep all night long.
It's amazing. You can do this. If you struggle, one, to stay asleep or because you wake up hot, or two, there are disputes in your family. I'm not saying, it's someone else's fault, but it is. They don't like the way you sleep at the temperature. This is a way to solve that problem in your marriage, in your
It's
relationship.
miraculous.
Do
I'm
it.
serious. You should do it.
Your partner will thank you.
Head over to sleep.me/TRS to learn more and save off the purchase of any new Cube, Uller, or Doc Pro sleep system. There's an offer available exclusively for the Ready State Podcast listeners and only for a limited time. That's sleep.me/TRS to take advantage of our exclusive discount and wake up refreshed every day.
Hashtag, it's not me, it's you. On this episode of the Real Estate Podcast, we are thrilled to bring you Jeff Byers. Jeff is the co-founder and CEO of Momentus, which is a holistic wellness nutrition company based in Park City. Designed by the brightest minds in performance athletics. Wait, is that us? But available for everyday wellness enthusiasts, Momentous is the first and only supplement brand to build formulas directly with experts from each of the four major American sports leagues. Launching in 2018 with a line of products designed by performance directors and dietitians from the NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB. Before his business career, Jeff attended the University of Southern California. He was a two-time captain, multiple-year starter. They were a championships team under Pete Carroll. He graduated his undergraduate degree in 3 years and proceeded to earn his master's degree in business before even entering the NFL, where he had a 4-year career playing in the Panthers. And the reason that's important in his journey will become evident as we get into this conversation.
You know, one of the things that I love so much about hearing about Jeff and his journey was about his sort of emphasis on his company value of democratizing human performance, and by that he means sort of taking the lessons that he learned and that other athletes get to learn in the locker room and high performance sports, and bring them to regular people who just want to feel good.
Yeah. You'll see that we do mention this, but we are Momentous partners. And one of the reasons is this company works in the military, has contracts with research with the Department of Defense, plus is the biggest supplier of sports teams working at the ground, like the pointy end of the stick, more professional teams and university teams than any other company. And that's really remarkable because they understand what works and what doesn't work.
He also just has a super bonkers athletic history and injury history, which of course is relevant for us at the Ready State that we really had a great time talking about.
Yeah. And I'll say that Jeff is always down for a good time. And what I mean is, want to do something crazy with your body? Want to talk politics and art and science? I mean, this guy is a great human being. I'm thrilled to be, we are thrilled to be part of his partners in this thing. And I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. You may even learn something about why some supplement companies are not equal to the others.
Enjoy this episode with Jeff Byers. Jeff, welcome to the Ready State podcast.
Howdy. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Always good to see you, my friend. Just so everyone knows, up front, Juliet and I work with your company. So full transparency here. If we're gushing or we get into the weeds, we are part of the Momentous family. I just wanted to give that disclaimer, just in case you wonder why I'm so awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, I would also like to disclaim that we don't enter into partnerships with anybody except for people with whom we love.
Yeah, we're
like
users,
Jeff.
hard users.
Hard users.
Okay, so now we're through the disclaimer, just so everyone knows. But you're on this call with us because what you're doing with this company is amazing. The people that you're tricking to work with you, like Andrew Huberman and Stacy Sims, like legends in their fields, it's pretty profound. But your story about becoming the CEO of Momentus is awesome, and your backstory I think is really compelling. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and how did you end up here? Like school, work. I think you had an earlier job, even though you might even say career.
I mean, maybe just sum up the first 20 years of your life.
Go.
30 years.
Go. How much time do we got? 3 hours?
Tons. We have tons.
So full disclosure for everybody listening. I'm really good at talking like Kelly is. So we could go on for forever here. So my background. In another life, I played professional sports. I was a professional football player. And you go way back in high school, I was one of the top rated football recruits in high school and had the luxury of picking really where I went to school. I went to
what position did you?
I was an offensive lineman many, many pounds ago. And yeah, it's like I ate myself when you look at pictures. So when you Google me, Google lies. I actually am a decent looking human being, not what Google shares.
So wait, not to cut off your story, but I mean, how big were you when you were playing, and how big are you now?
Yes, my playing weight in the NFL was around 300. 3 to 310 was really where I played most of my career at in the NFL. I don't know. I haven't gotten a scale in a long time. It was my job to get on a scale, I felt like, and it's probably been like a year since I've gotten a scale, but I'm probably someplace in between 225 and 240 would be my guess.
And how tall are you?
I'm 6.
And you're
6'4".
Yeah, just you're an adult sized man. That's my point. But I think
adult sized man.
How do you?
So were you like a chunky 310 or like a jacked yoked 310?
I'll let Google answer that question, but Google definitely made me look fatter than I really was.
The internet adds at least a dozen kilos.
Okay, sorry. I don't want to cut off and totally go deep on this.
But I think that's interesting because of the transformation.
Yeah, like what? But was it just the act of stopping playing and not, eating so much in order to maintain that weight? Like, did you just sort of start functioning like a more normal athlete?
Hey, you're making all of us really uncomfortable about his weight. You weren't that fat, Jeff.
I was. When anyways, long story short, when I knew I was done playing football, and I chose to retire, I had a really bad injury. I had what's called Liz Frank, and was non-weight bearing for 12 weeks, and I just started swimming. And I knew I was done playing when I had surgery, and I kind of had the conversation with the doc. And there was, to me, it was life after ball, just because there always is, and I was really passionate about it. So I started swimming, and I stopped eating a lot of calories. I kind of just like, I don't know, ate 4,000 calories a day, but I like started swimming 30 minutes. And I'll say, like, when I say I started swimming, I tried not to drown for 30 minutes when I started.
Yeah.
All right. And then
beginner gains when you're inefficient. It's a great workout.
30 minutes of like try not to vomit and try not to drown at the same time was my initial. And then I just got really good at swimming, better at swimming. I would say I'm not good at swimming. I sink. But it was something I did, and the weight just dropped off. I lost like 60 pounds in 2 months or so.
Wow.
And my wife was pregnant with our first boy, and like she's going up, and I'm just like falling off a cliff weight wise. And like I still have a very healthy appetite. You two can attest to that. And it just was like I was still eating like a horse. I just wasn't eating like pizza and a couple of weight gainer shakes a day. It was just like I ate what I consider a normal human being, but which is still a lot of food. And it shed off really quick. But to me, it was needed. Like being 310 is not good for you. Right. Like, and people always ask, like, how do you feel now? And I've had a bunch of surgeries, and I'm beat to hell, and my flexibility sucks, and all of those things. But immediately losing weight, slept better, right? You stopped playing, right? Slept better. My whole body feels incredibly better. Just like the load that I don't have to carry is pretty impactful. And so losing that weight was pretty instrumental in me like living the life and thinking about like, how do I optimize for this next chapter?
That's so cool. See, are you glad I asked that?
Go ahead, baby.
Okay, so, but I do want to back up in time only because you told me a data point about your college recruiting that I thought was really interesting. So could you tell a little bit more about your sort of like high school to college transition and then where you ended up going?
Yeah, I guess we never got there. So in high school, I was one of the top recruited high school football players. Really, really lucky. Was up for an ESPY award, which is crazy to think. And I was a Gatorade football player of the year. And I got beat out for like the Gatorade high school athlete of the year by this guy named Dwight Howard. If you've ever heard of him, kind of good. I mean, it's like, I look back and it's like, man, somebody picked poorly if they put me against Dwight Howard to win like athlete of the year in high school. Like that was somebody was really confused. So I grew up in Colorado on the Front Range. Went to a high school called Loveland High, smaller school, but we've just like produced a ton of really, really great athletes and students out of that school. There's a guy named Jeremy Bloom who was a Olympic skier, played football for the CU Buffs, and a handful of other really great athletes that came out of school. And yeah, so went to USC, the real USC, Southern Cal, and played there from 04 to 09. Pete Carroll was my coach. He's my guy. Think a lot of him, and he really is pretty instrumental in how I think about running my business and leadership and people and team and talent, all of those things. I got to spend a lot of formative years with him. But my college career was very different than I think what I would have expected. So I started a bunch of games as a true freshman. That was the year we won the national championship. And the last game of the season before the national championship, I blew my hip out essentially, and I had 2 hip surgeries post that injury. And basically
at age 19,
at 19, yeah, super duper young. They did microfracture, labral debridement. They kind of reshaved my femoral head and neck. And it was really bad. And there was like 3 surgeons in the world that basically I was told I could go to for my second surgery. And I went to one of them, and he's still around and still doing really innovative things. And he was like, most people don't come back from this, and you're pretty new for this surgery and what we're going to do. And he's like, I would have you not expect to play football again. or never play at the level that you once were at. So anyways, had hip surgery.
Wow, that's heavy.
19. It was heavy. It was real heavy.
Wait, so was that, what year of college was
that? That was between my freshman and sophomore year. So I had my first surgery in January or February of my freshman year. And then my second surgery was 3 or 4 months after that. Basically after they realized that like a quick fix didn't solve the problem, and had to have like the real shebang done.
Let me ask you sort of two things. One is your whole life is set out for you in that moment where you're going to play college, you're getting all, you're there now, you're playing for Pete Carroll, you win a national championship, and then this thing happens. That's the first time probably you ever were confronted with a big existential crisis about, did that moment give you the opportunity to say, hey, I really do have to plan for something else and I have to have a different set of skills because this could be taken away in an
instant? It 100% is a massively defining moment in my life on how I think about a lot. And I will say from how I prioritize my life, how I think about the people I surround myself with, but also just knowing that there's more to life than what you're currently doing. And it's this bigger picture. And it was really hard. I feel very lucky and fortunate to have a pretty good support system around me. And it was hard with them, even around me.
You are a true mutant. I mean, I don't think your aerobic capacity, your ability to climb and hike, you just did this crazy event with your friends. You really do. You're truly a mutant. I think people can forget because you're just Jeff CEO, but you are a mutant. Obviously you had salamander healing ability. Someone cut your hip off and you regrew a hip very quickly at age 19. But do you think it was important that physician said to you, you probably won't be able to do this again? Did that one
like
of those
a motivator?
Things? We have a friend who's a rock star, for example, and his stepdad said to him, yeah, you probably won't stick with this guitar. And he became a rock star.
I think it put things into perspective. I'm not a rock star. I'm way too cool for that. Not. It really put things in perspective, right? So, when you're a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid and football is your life, right? And the world kind of says that about you. It really puts into perspective of what's important and also kind of reminds you to these two basic things that really matter in life that you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. The kind of lame things, but things that I've lived by for a very long time. And it was, like, what am I here to do? Like, am I here to be Jeff, the football player? Am I here to be Jeff, a human that's going to inspire change and leave the world a better place? And I had a lot of people that challenged me. That was like, why are you at USC? Like, you're here for an education. You're on a full ride. Figure it out. And so when I was basically told I wasn't going to play again, I went and met with the dean of the business school. And he said, hey, we can get you on track to graduate undergrad in 3 years. And I can't guarantee you're going to get into grad school, but we'll take a look at your application and figure it out. And you can get as much schooling paid for as you can while you're under scholarship, right? Basically, I'm like, okay, what's my plan B? Let's start taking school really seriously and start thinking about life after ball. With this whole always in back of my head of like, it's not over till it's over type of thing. So I ended up getting on track to graduate undergrad in 3, which basically means I had 2 years to do 3 years of schooling, those last 2. And then, missed my whole second year. Coming up into my 3rd year, got back to playing and ended up blowing my back out, had L4, L5, disectomy right in like towards the end of training camp. And so I missed my entire 3rd season that year. So I missed my 2nd and 3rd year playing, but I ended up getting my undergrad degree in 3 years, and I got accepted in the Marshall School of Business. So I was going into my 4th year of eligibility with my
as a grad student,
which was pretty crazy. And I was getting my MBA. I was in night school. Plus, part of like the requirement was I had to have a job. And so like I went into an office in downtown LA for like 3 hours in the morning after workouts, would go to work, then we'd go to practice, and then we'd go to school, which when I look back on it was pretty insane.
So lazy.
I've And people are like,
college is such a fun time for everyone. I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, wait, were you the only one in your graduate program who was also finishing their final year of eligibility and playing a serious sport?
Yes, I was the youngest and still the youngest person to go through that program. And they, I don't know, like, I think I was very fortunate that they let me in, and I worked really hard, like, to make sure I had more on my application other than football player, because I didn't want to be known for that. But it was like the PM program is full of like old timers, people my age now, like in their mid to late 30s, with kids and family. And I was like totally thrust in. So I'd go from like the locker room, which is 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, right, to like these grown ass adults that have kids and families. And it was like this like clash of reality for me of like, go from like, I literally run off the field, take a shower, ride my bike as fast as I can so I wouldn't be late for class. And it's like two polar opposites of life, of like very buttoned up, like people in their suits coming from downtown LA or Boeing and these other places to like, anyways, it was quite fascinating. Let me just like, I didn't have a huge life my last couple of years in college because I was so busy. But so there's this crazy rule in college that if you have a hardship year, 2 hardship years, they grant you an extra year of eligibility. So I actually, my 4th year, my 5th year, and I got a 6th year of eligibility. So I went to school for 6 years, got my MBA fully completed, and was a 2-time captain my last 2 years. So my 5th and 6th year was captain of the football team. And then I graduated in December and then started in the NFL in the spring of 2010. And I went to Carolina, did a hot second in Carolina, and then not Carolina, in Seattle, did a hot stint in Seattle, played my first year in Denver, played by play, I mean practice. And then got cut in Denver and then went to Carolina and spent 3 years in Carolina, started a handful of games. If you knew who I was, you care way too much about the Carolina Panthers, because I was pretty much a backup offensive lineman, and I got thrown in when things were going real bad for other people, which is a really interesting place to be, coming off the bench as an offensive lineman. So,
hashtag shout out Joe Ken.
Joe Ken, my guy.
I have like 45 questions, but and Kelly does too. But because this is the Ready State podcast, I would like to go back and talk about your injuries and ask you, do you think there was something special or super secret about the way that you managed those and rehabbed them and recovered from them that allowed you to be able to come back? Or did you just like follow the program and you were diligent and organized? Like what was the secret there? Like why, if you have 2 injuries that might have like ended someone else's career but didn't end yours, like what was the difference?
Genetic freak, right? Mutant plays a role into that, and there's just people like that. Like I don't know, like
little luck. There's little luck involved.
My nickname was like Gristle. Like you just chew on me, and you would never break me, but I'll never go away. But that's what some of that's which is a good
old Gristle Byers. I love it.
That was what a guy named Chris Carlisle, our strength coach in college, my strength coach in college, called me. Anyways, I think I had a really good team around me. So when I hurt my hip, we hired a guy by the name of Dr. John Meyer. He's director of high performance now for the Kings and the Clippers, and he really transitioned me through my rehab and was extremely diligent. And for me, right, my rehab was my practice, right? I took it very seriously, did it every single day. And was always trying to push and probably pushed too. I've always pushed too hard. But for me, there was always an end. Like I treated rehab like a game, like a game, a competition of like, how do I get better? How do I improve? Right. Like knowing that, okay, they said 8 weeks, I can probably do it in 6. And that was my mindset. And I think that's the mindset of a competitor. Like, oh, they say this, I can do that. And even if they had to slow me down, it was something I always pushed through and was just always diligently staying on top of it. I go back and say like, this was in the mid to late 2000s where like we didn't have nutrition and all the things that we had back then. But I also, I also just always thought about more than just the plan, right? Like, here's what you have to do. I was always I'm going to go do more. I'm going to go swim. I'm going to go do this. Like, so with my hip, I did a ton of pool workouts, like running in the water, and it took a ton of extra time, and they weren't like mandatory, but it was something that was important to me. And so it was just like this diligent effort to stay relevant and like work through pain, but always like, well, they say 8 weeks, I can do it in 6, right? And that has backfired on me in the past and does on a lot of people. But there was a light that I saw at the end of the tunnel that I was going to get there as fast as I could. And then, in the NFL, it was really about longevity. And a friend of mine named Jordan Sen, who was a captain in Carolina, introduced me to your book, Supple Leopard. And in Carolina, it was like I don't know if I could say, like, it was like the Bible. It was like the gospel, right? It was like, like we're doing flossing and all this other stupid shit in the locker room. Sorry, not stupid, really good stuff. But like at the time, it was like really new, and like it was just like, towards the end was like coming out, and like who's this crazy guy, Kelly Starrett, like the Supple Leopard, and like I don't know. I also think a big thing for me was I was never like really single-minded in sports. Like, I love being active, and even when I was hurt, I was still like riding my bike or hiking, or like, like in Carolina, we went backpacking and paddling and all of these things. Like, I just never believed that I just needed to be a one trick pony. Like, I just love so much about being active and adventure that I was always thinking about other things. And I think that has given me a lot more longevity, is just not being like, I only got a bench, squat, power, clean, right? Like, yes, I love to do that, but I also love to do a lot of other things. And that was always really important to me.
Did you know, coming out of the MBA program at USC, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I have this other opportunity. Did that change, or did you have a moment where you thought maybe I shouldn't play in the NFL because I've already invested in this thing? Or do you realize that maybe I can use the NFL as even as a springboard and a quick way to like gather a bunch of capital and launch a business? Because it sounds like you're going in that direction, and you recognize you don't really have it's fragile and can be taken away from you by a freak accident.
Yeah. Yes to kind of all of those things. So you put those words into my mouth, but that's 100% it. So I was at this tipping point. Like, what do? I invested and like sacrificed a ton over about 2.5 years, longer than that, at USC, to like, hey, I didn't get to go out and do a bunch of things normal college kids do, and just like grind it, and basically it was like, do I go play in the NFL? Like, do I become irrelevant in the business world? And the answer is, right, like many children, like, it was my childhood dream to play professional sports. And it was like, this comes once in a lifetime, and I'm going to choose when I'm not ready to play. And it was one of those things that I made a couple deals with a couple people. Like, one of them was I was always going to stay relevant outside of sports, and I was going to never let sports take more from me than I took from it. And I danced that last one pretty close. I will say, just, obviously football and traumatic brain injury. Like, if I knew what I knew now, like, I would probably change some of my thought processes, and probably would have walked away a little bit sooner. But it definitely, like, I stayed relevant. I worked a job every off season. I had a long-standing job offer in finance, which I instantly realized I didn't want to do once I retired and started working in finance. And it kind of led me to where I'm at now. Like, everything's post-finance has been a stepping stone into creating Momentus, and really this thought of how do we democratize high performance?
So I have kind of two questions. You just seem to have such a like solid head on your shoulders about how you sort of framed like the importance of your football career in your life, and how you always made sure you had a plan B. Like, where's that come from? Like, was that from your parents? Like, what's sort of the influence there? Because I feel like that's actually not that common. Like, I think a lot of kids don't have that perspective. Like, what do you think? Where do you think that comes from?
Family, for sure. Like I've been really blessed to have a pretty solid foundation in my life. And, I was really close to my grandparents. My grandfather's no longer here, been a long time. And then my grandma on my dad's side are people I was close to and watched how they affected change in community and drove a lot of betterment in the world. And that really inspired me to think about life more than just, what you're doing and when, and how can you actually inspire change. But, right when times get tough and the people you surround yourself with really make those tough times into opportunities and inflection points. And so I feel very lucky to have my parents, my brothers, sisters, and the friends that I had that kind of really rallied around me. And glass half full, this attitude and effort thing is something my dad preached to me a lot when I was young, and really related to sports, but also school. Like there's a lot of things you can control in life. There's a lot of things that you can't control in life, but there's very few things that you can control and that are important. And attitude and effort are two of those really, really important things that only you can control. And it's been, those things, and I talk about it a lot, talk to myself about it a lot. So I talk to myself. Yeah. And those are two things I always remind myself. It's like, I can control how my day's going. I can control everything. And that's a really important thing for me.
Hey guys, we just want to take a little break in this podcast episode to actually tell you about one of our own products, and that's our Ready State Virtual Mobility Coach.
Yeah, the app literally is the first place you should go if you're trying to feel better, if you're trying to solve an old movement related problem, if you're just trying to not be as sore from your workout.
There is so much going on in this app. We have a mobility test that is comprehensive and designed by Kelly Starrett himself.
That's pretty good.
So you can figure out what your biggest limitations are and start to work on that. There are sport-specific mobilizations if you want to try to lift more or run faster. There is a pain area. And we even have a ton of bonus content. You can do challenges around squat and ankle and a bunch of other specific body parts, so you can just generally get more supple.
You're
and
killing
awesome.
it. You should talk about this app more often. Look, we started the original mobility project back in 2010, trying to help people solve problems for themselves. We think that every human being should be able to perform basic maintenance on themselves. And we want you to be able to engage in some self-care in a really reasonable, responsible way. One of our favorite parts of it, daily mobility. You have a 10, 20, or 30-minute follow along with me. If you just have a ball and a roller, think you want to feel better, move better, play along. I mean, we really feel like that's the base camp practice. Then you can add in what you need.
We're really proud of this and what we've created here, and we think you should give it a try.
Fact.
Head on over to the readystate.com/trial and use code POD20 for 20% off your first month. And just FYI, including your 2-week free trial, that's literally 6 weeks for $11.99. You can't beat that. There's so much amazing content to help you feel better and move better for $11.99.
For, in the words of our podcast producer, bananas. Do you feel like winning a national title, which is the highlight of a college career, did that help having that in the pocket so you had some consummation of this work and this dream? Or did you get that early success and you're like, I should be able to do it again, and you kind of the rest of the time this thing ghosted you? Did that help in that way?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that one.
Maybe you just didn't matter because your back was hurting.
Yeah.
Second question. This is more important. You're not actually the athlete in your family. Can you talk about the real athlete in your family? How did you meet? Because I think that's really interesting, this kind of aspect of your partnership.
Yeah. So my wife, Bethany, has been an incredible partner for a very long time in my life. She played volleyball at USC, played overseas in Europe for a season. But she is 100% the better athlete than I am. She can jump, she can power lift, all of those things. And we have three amazing.
How tall is she?
She's 6'4". So she's a complete animal.
How do I get on the list to get one of your children?
If I'm not mistaken, I think if I'm not mistaken, when your 4-year-old's already like 6 feet tall.
Yeah, essentially. My 4-year-old is a little tank. All my boys are. I have 3 boys, and they're like people will be like they are all you, and they're all me and my wife, and like my wife's full of energy and obviously very athletic and active, and our boys are just amazing little creatures that we've made, and they are they are large and they love to be going fast and always wrestling. And yeah, I have an 8, 6, and 4-year-old, which is crazy to think about.
It must be just like our house with teenage
Oh
daughters.
my God. Okay. So I want to know, it sounded, so tell us a little bit about sort of the timeline post NFL career. And then I want to just, if you could talk about how it sounds like you took a job in finance that you didn't like. And how did Momentus come to being? And my sub question there is, because you mentioned it, was your fear of traumatic brain injury, did it come into play at all in your specific interest in what you're doing now?
Oh, I wish I had a pen to write all those down. So I will say, right. So my last full NFL season was 2013, and so like the last game is like January of 2014. But I got hurt in like week 8 or week 9 that year. I had Lisfranc, which is a terrible foot injury, but is what it is. And so like my last play of my career was me getting carted off the field, which sucks.
That sucks.
But
A lot of people were cheering.
A lot of people were cheering. There are pictures of that cart ride too out there that Google is not friendly with either. Anyway, so I knew I was done, and I had this long-standing job offer in finance. It was actually one of my dad's really close friends who was looking to transition his business out, and I had worked for him a couple of off seasons. And as soon as I jumped in, I realized it was not what I wanted to do. Like it was a great way to make a living, but it wasn't team. It was very lone wolfish, and it was playing in the margins, and that's not who I am, right? And that's not how when I look back on my life of like what has made me great, like what has made me me is right high energy, effort, taking risks, and just like blowing through as many walls as I can. And that wasn't finance. That wasn't this finance role. I love to build. I love to do. I love to challenge. And I love to do the impossible and make things. And use a quote from Pete Carroll: "Do it better than it's ever been done before."
Do you feel like? Let me ask you this: do you feel like you had oftentimes we have a lot of friends who are similar boats as you, who retire from sport. And our friend Gabby Reese says you actually retire twice if you're a professional athlete. You retire from your sport and then you retire from your job after your sport. Did you ever feel like you got a chance to retire from the NFL and more than that? Or there's the depression after sports careers is real, or are you just too manic and already had a plan in place that didn't even have a chance?
I mean, I say I retired from football. Like I left on my own terms, like they wanted me back. But I mean, I just dove right into it. Like I was prepped. I knew there's life after ball. Like football got taken away from me, and like I already in my mind was like on, right? What is next? And that was from a young age in college of like, hey, football can be taken away. It's a part of my life. It's not who I am. And I think I was blessed really young to have that because like you and like a lot of us, friends that have served in the military or play professional sports or really high level college sports, when you leave, it is really hard to find purpose in your why because it is so different and your value is so different in the real world than it is when you're doing something that you're highly skilled and you've done for a very long time. Where was I going with that? I don't remember. So I transitioned out into finance, right? And realized I didn't want to do it. I kind of took a lateral forward step and jumped into a family office who was doing growth stage investing, and kind of was dabbling and just realized I was sitting at the wrong side of the table. Like I was listening to these entrepreneurs pitch their businesses and was like, I'm a doer builder. I got to get completely out of finance no matter what it is. And I joined this early stage biotech company in early 2015. And the biotech was creating a transdermal drug delivery system. I knew nothing about it. like I have no science background. You got my background. Like I took oceanography in college, which right. Anyways, like I'm not like
step one oceanography, step two NFL.
Yeah, exactly. So that don't judge me too hard.
Step one dolphins, step three found a company.
So I joined this early stage biotech, and I was employee number 4. And they hired me for really 2 reasons. I had this really untraditional background. Obviously, they needed to raise capital, but they also had the idea to use this technology outside of medicine and use it in sports performance, high performance. So like, what if we could bypass the GI system and deliver substances through the skin? Vitamins, minerals, supplements, et cetera. And that was really the birth of what is now Momentus, was starting there, and really cut my teeth and got really into exercise physiology. And sport was something I didn't think I was going to get back in and work in. Like when I retired, I was like, I'm never going back into sports. Like I don't, yeah.
And was that the birthplace of AMP and PR
That was
Lotion?
the birthplace of AMP Human and PR Lotion, was at that biotech. And so in 2018, my co-founder, Eric, and I acquired the rights to PR Lotion and started AMP Human. And so AMP Human had a little bit of traction before that. We were doing some work with special forces, with some elite endurance athletes, and had some traction in pro sports here in the US, in like traditional pro sports. And we had just enough to say, hey, there's an ability here. And what we were doing was so different and such at the forefront. We had a little bit of early clinical data, but what we saw is this ability to create a human performance company, centered with this now patented technology where we have some really good clinical data behind it. And we were unlocking something really pretty basic in the body, but making it practical for the first time ever, really for humans to unlock some performance gains. And so
you talk about what PR Lotion is, just for everyone to
so PR Lotion gives your body more sodium bicarbonate. Bicarb is a basic electrolyte, and bicarb's role in the body is super simple. It helps reduce hydrogen ions, lactic acid. And so when we go hard or long, our bodies produce acid as a byproduct of energy production, and that acid builds up in our body. We naturally clear it, and that acid combines with bicarbonate in the blood, or bicarbonate pulls the lactate and the hydrogen ions, lactic acid, out of the body. Hydrogen ions and bicarb interact and form CO2 and water as like the byproduct of the waste. Also gets converted back into pyruvate. Lactate gets converted back into pyruvate. So anyways, bicarb buffers acid. Taking bicarbonate orally causes massive GI distress. Your stomach is acidic.
No. This is real.
This is real.
This is why people we're like, oh, you can load bicarb and it really works and it's legal, but also it's really gnarly.
So we all did like a 3rd or 4th grade paper mache volcano experiment in elementary school. That's your stomach. And what that paper mache volcano is, it's vinegar, acid, your stomach, and baking soda, bicarb, and it explodes. And it goes some people call it the double dragon. It goes up and out and down and out real fast. The double dragon. And so visual image for everybody here. It's a really fascinating product, because it's doing something that's never been done and unlocked a lot. We have really good data on it. We don't have great data. It's still super early days when we think about it. We've won a handful of government innovation contracts for the Department of Defense that have helped fund clinical data. We have some clinical data that's coming out in the next 6 to 9 months as it goes through the peer review and publishing cycle. That's really, really keystone, what I would call the cornerstone or keystone of the literature for this. But essentially, you put it on before you work out really high intensity or really long days, and it helps buffer that acid, right? So that you can go a little harder for a little longer and feel better the next day. It's a really special product. It's not for everybody all the time, but it's what propelled us to being at the forefront of high performance.
And tell us, how did you go from making those 2 products, AMP Human and PR Lotion, and what you were doing there, to now this gigantic enterprise that is Momentous? And I mean, what's tell us about that.
So when we started Amp Human, the company, it was to never be a lotion company or a transdermal nutrient delivery company. It was to create a high performance company. That was the vision we had. And I go back to my playing days. And one of the things that I saw was what happens in the locker room or at the really elite level very rarely trickles to the consumer. And as we think about that, it's like the innovation, the technologies, the guidance and knowledge very rarely trickles to that consumer. And what I saw was this huge gap in the market of how do we bring the right knowledge, innovation, and access to the consumer. And what we had, what being at the forefront, was very, very different than what other people were doing. And so we started a company with this patented, clinically validated product that the government helped fund. And it was what's next. And I'll use the words we use today as they've evolved, but really how we're thinking about the market and what we're doing is our goal and vision is to democratize high performance. And we do that with the best products in the world. We do that with the best access, the best knowledge and guidance, right? And you all are a part of that access and knowledge of how do we get people into the right products at the right time with the right content and the right knowledge to why they are doing that. And that is so important. When we think about the space that we're in, it's very, very fragmented, right? Everybody lives in their little silos. But at the end of the day, the human body is the most complicated system in the world. And if you just think about it by just one thing or that thing, you're missing the whole big picture. And it's how do we boil it up and what I call create a systematic based approach to high performance, get people into the right behaviors, the right products at the right times. And then give them.
Yeah. And it is, I have to say that, I work with a local team, college team, and, sometimes you can hear this and you can see that people can get lost in the weeds. The biohackers, if I just take this molecule, it will optimize me. But oftentimes we're seeing that the big basic blocks, people aren't eating enough. And we aren't making it simple for them enough to get enough calories that they can digest during workouts because they can't eat a sandwich. They can't eat a peanut butter sandwich and do their sport right away. And did you set out to, or do you still see that we're still making those fundamental type 1 error, basic sort of errors in our food and nutrition and sleep? Or do you feel like it's the marketplace is going toward, we really need to really hyper specialize and that you're missing this one molecule, which gives you a 0.01% bump?
100%. We still have the base of the pyramid to optimize. Right. And I would say that across the board. So like, if you were to look at a pyramid and you say like 80% of information and products and ideas out there are well-known, right? Pretty accessible, the knowledge. The problem is what's good for me or what fits my goals and my fears are very different than what fits yours, right? And the challenge is just doing a couple things really, really good for long periods of time has epic, right? Good consequences for us. And I think about that, but that's where, like, when I think about what we did in the NFL and what's happening there is it's this systematic based approach. It's not anything crazy, right? It's like everybody's a mutant, your words. And what you do is you put together, right, a couple, like me, I had like high injury prone soft tissue. So 80% of everything I did, from nutrition to body maintenance to how I worked out and how I practiced, was directed back towards, hey, I'm broken. I need to not be broken. Let's think about how do I have variance in my workouts and in my diets and in my life, right? And so as you weave those things through, but it wasn't you need to do 900 things. It was like you did these 5 things, hard stop, right? Because as you know, the more stimulus you throw at somebody, you basically reach this point in the curve where too much stimulus, you just fall off this cliff and you stop doing everything. And so
bone crushing consistency.
Yeah.
That's how you make gains.
That's from Lane Norton.
Yeah.
Lane Norton.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead, Jay.
Oh yeah. I have something. So Momentous products are all NSF certified for sport.
Or
not all, some.
All of our products are third-party tested. Whole bunch of our sports nutrition line, or our whole sports nutrition line, is NSF and Informed Sport. And then we have a whole nother chunk of our product line that is Informed Sport. We have a handful of products that are on the supplement side that are going through Informed Sport cycle testing.
You explain what that is real quick.
But I don't think everybody knows what that is. I mean, what are those two things, and
why is it important?
Why is it important? Because we know that it's super important, but why is it?
Well, as we know, anybody can start a supplement company in their bathtub tomorrow. The barriers to entry are literally zero.
No, truly, that's a true statement, everyone. That's literally, you can make a supplement, a dietary supplement, and market it as food.
And do whatever, right? And just, you put asterisk, right? These statements have not been. It is literally the Wild West, and it creates a very messy, confused consumer facing. So essentially, all the dietary supplements, vitamins, minerals, and such that you take are not regulated. And what's on the label doesn't have to be what's in the bottle, because there's no regulation on there. And so there's really two certifications that are held in the highest regard. One of them is NSF. The other one is LGC, which is known as Informed Sport. And those two, they content certify it, and then they test it for banned substances against the WADA anti-doping list. So basically, it's how these practitioners have found a way in pro and college sports to say, what are the highest quality, safest supplements? It's these. These things cost a lot of money, right? To get certified. But so the content certified is really what is important, I think, for the general consumer, which they don't understand. A lot of people say, oh, they're third-party certified. And they literally have a logo that says third-party certified, which means nothing. Everybody has, that literally means nothing. It
means organic or natural.
I don't like third-party certified for what? And so NSF certified example, like if our protein powder, it has, or 20 grams of protein in it on the label, and it comes back at 21 grams of protein in the sample, we don't pass content certified, right? Or if it has, 5 extra milligrams of sodium. So what actually is in the label has to be in the bottle or in the jar or the bag, whatever the thing is, which is really, really important. And so they're actually certifying that. And if you're out of whack, you have to have a variance report that shows, and you have to have a weigh in to change that. And so it creates a very tight manufacturing certification, and all of these manufacturers are audited by these two groups. And then to be banned substance tested, basically they just test you for all the banned substances and say clean or not clean. And that's a very black and white situation there. And we do our it's very important to us as we sell into 200 pro and college teams now to have these certifications. The consumer doesn't understand them, right? Because it's, again, we live in this industry that is noisy and confusion of buy this, buy that. And when we talk to consumers, people don't know what they're getting or why. And quality is very, very different from what you buy in a big box to what you buy from us. I like to say we compete with free in the locker room. Teams get things for free from all these companies. They buy our stuff. We compete with free, which is speaks to my sales team of how good they are, but also speaks to the quality of products that we have, but also why we've chosen to partner with these experts and these practitioners like you all, because companies are always saying, well, we have the best products, we have the best ingredients and formulations, but we can say the same thing. Nobody listens to us, right? We say all these things, but what we found is, we have this unique ability to partner with experts because we're doing clinical research, we're innovating, we truly have the best products. And when Dr. Andrew Huberman or you two or someone, Stacy Sims says, this is the company that I believe in and that I've gotten behind, they can pick any supplement. There's 1,000 supplement companies in the world. I choose to work with Momentus because they stand for the same things I do. That carries a lot of weight because you all can pick to work with anybody. Like I know you, like you have probably 20 people that would love to work with you in our space. And it's more than just slinging supplements. My goal is not to create a supplement company. We are trying to democratize high performance. That is a very different thing than than just be a supplement company.
Yeah, it really is. Well, okay, so I just want to try to do a slight like repeat because I think people learn that way. And I do think you're right that there's a massive amount of confusion in the market, and maybe just this little podcast episode can help fix some of that confusion. But if there is a consumer that's listening to this who wants to buy content certified supplements, what do they look for? How do they know?
So there's little logos that will go on like a product page on the website that says NSF certified, Informed Sport, NFS certified for sport, etc. That will be on those logos. And again, it's literally a check the box. Like these companies could do it. It just costs money and a check the box, and people choose not to do it, which blows my mind. It's the only way.
If you're a drug tested athlete, would you take
No,
anything?
Never. You should never take anything, right? Like, and that's why like teams can't buy that. Like if they can't give their athletes that, and you should never risk it. Like if your paycheck depends upon you peeing in a cup and having it come back clean, why would you ever risk it for a vitamin D? Like you never know. Things get cross-contaminated all the time.
Or creatine or protein.
Anything.
The stories, people, because we were in the space, the stories we've heard of things being in pre-workout, being in protein supplements, it's insane.
It's way more common than you think, and I had no idea. Right? But like that's one level. The other level here is, to me, is like, okay, this is just like a barrier to entry. Like you shouldn't have a choice. Like, how are you not content certified? Like, how are you not doing that? The other thing is just like the quality of ingredients and the thoughtfulness behind the portfolio of products, right? Like what's the new sexy, sleep cocktail or this or that? And right, really, how do we go back to scientifically backed, expert-led products, right? To say, this is why these products exist and this is how you use them together. And I won't say we're great at that as a business, but what we're trying to get to is how do we get people into the right products at the right time? Because that's how you create long-standing habits and create real change in somebody's life. It's like, for me, I care about connective tissue health and cognitive health. And then I want to be able to go really hard and perform when I go really hard to perform. Like those are the only three things I care about. Like, everything else is below that. Yeah.
I'm going to put connective tissue health above my cognitive health. Sorry, Jay. I might be a little slower.
It's fine. You're going to be slow,
but
you'll
my
be able
knees
to
are going to
squat.
feel great.
You're going to be able to squat, baby.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, just one last thing on this whole certification thing. It's like, because I'm sort of a skeptical person, I would think, okay, well, if a supplement does not have those two things, it probably does not have what it says it has. if it's not that hard to get it done.
I would say there's a lot of really good companies out there that choose not to get it certified.
It's expensive and a pain
for business reasons.
For those reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that make high quality products, but again, it's like it just to me feels like if we're going to be leaders in high performance and we want to work with you or Stacy or Andrew or anybody in this space, it's just like, just to show up to the party, you got to have it. It doesn't even matter in my opinion.
Yeah. Especially being able to, anyone who's going to be drug tested at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we, at our gym, we actually had people who were in strength sports who would show up, and it'll just say free form strength sports. You can take whatever you want, do a strength sport. And then we'd have people who were being like cycling in the Olympics. And we'd be like, no, you can't shake hands. You guys can just
you guys should just be on just don't even be on the same side of the gym.
We don't even, it's fine. Move your bags apart.
Yeah,
we're just
touch, do not touch.
If you're afraid of testing from drinking some weird Mexican milk in South America, then you need to also be aware. So we appreciate where you're coming from on that.
Okay, so quick sort of like turn 180 here, but I wanted to ask, you were on the other side of the table, when you were, working in venture capital or in finance before you became an entrepreneur yourself. Like, what has surprised you the most being on your side of the table, running a business from your, as a CEO and growing a company?
Oh man, that is a really loaded question. I would say everything feels like it takes longer than it does, but everything goes faster than you think it does. Like when you look, you're like, man, why are we going so slow? And you look backward, like you look forward, or in like today's like, man, why aren't we going faster? And then you look backwards when you like take this deep breath and you're like, oh, we've been going real fast. How did we get here? Like, how are we this far along? I mean, there's just amount of grit and resiliency that it takes to be in like a growth early stage business to like be a founder is incredible. Like I feel so lucky to have a business partner that has and shares that really same grit, that resiliency that I do of like, because it's really hard. And sometimes are great and you're high-fiving, and other times it's not great, but you still got a high five because those are the times that are really, really important. And I'll, it's been an incredible journey, but I also, like venture finance is very transactional, right? And a lot of things in life are transactional. And one of the things that I've loved so much about being in a passion-driven industry company is it's about the people you surround yourselves with in this community. There's like a higher purpose for what you do and what we do than always the bottom line. The bottom line is really important. But we get to wrap ourselves around people we love, doing things that we love, and talk about those all the time of like, that to me is what's so different is like, yeah, we're transactional at times, but like we really like the business and the ethos of this community that I'm lucky to be in with you all is so much more than transactional. And that is not how the other side works all the time.
No, that's true.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so tell us what is next for you and your company, and what is your next athletic event?
Next athletic event is, I don't know.
You get together. Let me just tell everyone. Jeff gets together with some friends who are also freaks of nature, and you go out there and you do something crazy once a year, and it's got to be brutally hard. You would never do it for fun.
And it like takes all day,
and potentially high risk of not completing it. And what I love about this high risk of not completing it is the people involved always complete everything they do. And so suddenly you guys are presented with a task where you may or may not complete that. And I won't bore people with the ridiculousness, but you guys are talking about paddling the Molokai Channel next year, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the things, ideas.
Yeah, I think it's still on the radar. There's some other stupid thing. I don't know what it is. It has to do with a lot of water activities too, of like a river and holding your breath. And I don't know. I'm always in for challenging, like, out of body, out of the world experience of like suffer. I think they're so important for us, right? To ground all of us. So my next point, go ahead.
Wait, I gotta jump right in and just say something. We had recently, you came, you're a user, you're down to throw down. We just had the Alpaca Sled World Champion of the World here at the office. And even though it's represented that the reigning gold medalist in bobsled won, do you want to set the record straight officially on this podcast?
I hope she's not listening, but
you outweigh her by a lot.
Technically, in a heat of 3, technically I won, but I'm not keeping score in the Alpaca Sled Push Challenge.
I just want to give you an opportunity. That will be released on the internet.
And I'm happy to challenge anybody to go to the Ready States gym and attempt to break that, and I will come out and break your time. I'll start training for it immediately. Yeah.
Oh, it's a thing now. I mean, everyone who comes has to do it now. Any visitor has to do it. So I mean, it's on. It's on. Yeah, I don't know if they actually can, but they're going to try.
It's a lot harder.
They're going to try.
Sticky. It really is. Anyways, my next sporting event is definitely skiing. Like, big thing I'm going to do has to be on the snow. Like, I don't know. We're like a month out from ski season opening in Park City, so I just gotta figure out how to get on the mountain sooner and start skiing. And then what was your other question, Juliet?
What's next for Momentous? What's going on? What are you looking forward to?
Really, right? Like I mentioned this, like the vision is how do we democratize high performance? And really, my goal and what we have to do as a brand is we have to bring that to life, right? And that is showing these partnerships with the Ready State or the Andrew Huberman, and bringing that content and validation to life into helping people get in the right products at the right time. I really, really believe that's the challenge of like who we are and what is democratized high performance. It's a guidance driven business of like, right, how do we provide better service and make sure people know why they're taking collagen or why they're taking this for sleep or why they're not taking this versus that, whatever it may be. I really believe that's the future, right? And that's who we are as a business, is like, how do we democratize high performance? And that's bringing the experts and the voices that surround us and combining them all together to get people in the right things at the right time. We have a couple cool products that are coming out or just relaunched that I'm really excited about. But what I'm mostly excited about is bringing the brand to life and really the brand expression of being at the forefront of high performance and bringing people better content and knowledge. So doesn't have to be a guesswork into what you do and why you do it. It's here's the reason, here's what to do, here's some great behavior changes, and here's some products.
Well, Momentus is definitely part of our life. Our girls get the collagen and the creatine every day. And one of the things that is maybe sad about my being middle-aged, but I'm like, hey, Juliet, do you want to take some magnesium, go to bed early? Like that's literally like,
yeah, that's our
night.
Sexiest
thing you can say to someone at like on Wednesday at like 9:00. Hey, you want to take some magnesium, go to bed? So you've influenced our bed routine, Jeff. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, he may feel awkward about
that.
And
Jeff is turning red right now. It's so great.
He feels awkward, but
totally normal. I'm really easily awkwarded, if that's a word. But we're launching the sleep pack, which has magnesium in it. And it's like these individual pill pouches. And it has magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin in it. And I'm really excited as it's like Andrew Huberman's sleep cocktail that he talks a lot about. And it's all in like a super convenient. It's like nothing revolutionary. It's just like, even for me, it's like what a pain in the butt to like individually like, I need one of these out of this jar. Let me get this jar. And it's like,
it really is. That's who we are.
It is. It's sad because then you're like, wait, where's this jar? And I can't find it. And it's in the kitchen and I'm here. And so you don't take the one. And so I think the convenience.
And for us,
we are one click nation.
And for us, sleep, right? Like if you boil it back down, it's like, what is the most important thing everybody can do? Sleep, right? Like it is the totally most important thing. And it's like, okay, well, let's start simplifying there. Because if we can provide some really basic supplements that we know help calm you down, help you get to sleep faster, and keep you in deep sleep, we're going to have a bigger impact. So that was kind of like, okay, where are we going?
And also habit forming. Like you can actually,
100%.
Rock, it's magnesium. It's just magnesium.
None of them are like apigenin comes from grapefruits, right? And it also comes from chamomile. But right, like it's like one of these things that's, okay, how do we give somebody an easy win, but also make it super consistent? Because if you know, like, oh man, I'm already getting ready for my bedtime routine. And like, I got to go back up and find my stupid pills and get a glass of water or whatever. Right. Like make it super easy, travel, et cetera. Because as soon as you break your routine, you got to get it started again. And I find that, and that was this other innovation, the collagen shot, which if you follow the Ready State, you know the collagen shot because you guys have talked about it a lot. But
we're obsessed with
it. It's one of my favorite, right? But it's also how do we make it really easy to get people something that is the most impactful for the connective tissue health from a supplementation perspective at the right time. So
can I get an
amen?
Where can people find out more about Momentus and Stacy Sims and Andrew Huberman, some of the partners that you have? You know, where do we dig in and how do we go from here? How do people take that step?
We're at livemomentus.com. And I think we're at Live Momentous on the social media platforms. Easiest way to find us right there. You guys also talk about us a lot and link about it. Huberman does as well, which is all great places to find really great knowledge and content across the board. So yeah, check us out. We're super excited. Ping customer service with any questions. We got a great team behind there. They can direct you to some of our exercise physiologists, dietitians, if you do have questions about products and things like that. Just
Jeff Byers, world champion of the world, alpaca sled champion, good dancer.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Ready State Podcast. If you like what you're hearing, check out all our episodes here or at thereadystate.com. And be sure to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes to help others find our show.
Check us out and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Ready State.
Until next time, cheers, everyone.
You got it.